morning we're making our slow progress through the Beatitudes. And I've gotten the one, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be children of God. Peacemakers. You know, we live, you know, it's a Chinese curse. May you live in interesting times. Well, we live in interesting times in which it would seem that our nation is incredibly polarized. What I read this week is that basically what's happened is that 50% of our population hates the other 50%. Liberals and conservatives, Republicans and Democrats, the South and the North, the East hates the West hates the East. We are incredibly polarized. We are polarized past the point of being able to work together. All we seem to be doing now is throwing rocks at each other. The question is, as Christian people who have committed ourselves to following in the footsteps of Jesus, what are we supposed to do? How do we live in this world of polarization? Love your neighbor as yourself, we're told. Blessed are the peacemakers, we're told. We all dream of a world of peace and harmony, where there is no war, where people can actually work together, in which everyone has enough. But how do we get there? We all dream that the world will be better for our children and for our grandchildren. But how do we get there? I tell you, something that has been really helpful to me is a book called The Righteous Mind. It was written in 2012 by Jonathan Haidt, who's a PhD sociologist, who did some interesting research on why people are liberal and others are conservative. Have you ever wondered that? Have you ever looked across the aisle and wondered, how do they believe that? In his opinion, we are wrong to say that people who disagree with us are stupid idiots. In his opinion, what we are missing is that liberals and conservatives, Republicans and Democrats, keep score in different ways. The truth he says, is that liberals and conservatives, Republicans and Democrats, however you want to slice it, value things in different ways. Garrison Keillor once remarked, I miss Garrison Keillor, I'm a liberal, and liberalism is the politics of kindness. Liberals stand for tolerance, community spirit, the defense of the weak against the powerful, love of learning, freedom of belief, art and poetry, city life, the very things that make America worth dying for. Did you hear it? Liberals are the politics of kindness. And then Haidt goes on to say that his research shows that conservatives place a much higher value on following authority, sanctity, loyalty, and fairness. Did you hear it? Neither side is stupid. Neither side is wrong. It's just that we're keeping score in different ways. You heard me use the word values. One of the things I have picked up along the way is you can't argue values. You might be able to argue about whether or not the sun will come up, But you cannot argue values. Values they're deep within us. And we can't change another person's values. And you heard me say this, but let me say some more about it. It would appear that neither side is stupid or wrong or brainless or... Both sides have value. Both sides are intelligent. Both sides have something to say to the other. I have a proposal to make. Instead of either or, what if it was both and? What if the left assumed that the right had something valuable to say, something to add to the discussion that ought to be heard? What if the right assumed that the left had something to say, something to add to the conversation? Instead of looking at each other as enemies, what if we looked at each other as possibilities? You have no idea how hard it was for me to say what I just said. So now we have neo-Nazis walking in the streets, white supremacists. I have tried to imagine what it would take for me to idolize Adolf Hitler. I can't get there. I can't understand how any rational person could do that. I just as soon gather them all up and ship them to an island where they can't hurt anybody and they can play their little games. Now, this is parenthetical. My suspicion is that what we are hearing from those people is a cry of pain. My suspicion is that they are afraid that the world has moved on and left them behind. My suspicion is that they have lost. You know, it used to be that white men ran the world. We are losing our control, which is a good thing if you're asking me. But I think they're afraid. What if we could figure out a way to actually listen to their story? What if they could figure out a way to listen to ours? Is there a way that we could put an end to this divide? What an interesting possibility. I have a distant family member who holds exactly the same opinions on theology and politics as I do, in reverse. I found out at a Thanksgiving meal that he holds opinions that I cannot begin to get my mind around. And so we can't talk religion or politics. The truth of the matter is that I'm trying to find a way to keep avoiding it. But what if? What if he's got something that I need to hear and I've got something he needs to hear? What if we could actually agree on some things? What an interesting possibility. Thanks to you folks and my 14 years of tenure in this congregation. By the way, did you know that my anniversary was August 24th? 14 years. Not done yet. Thanks to you folks. It's really interesting. Most congregations call a pastor and try to keep him from changing his mind about anything. This congregation has pushed on me to keep thinking about what I believe and changing what I believe. You have been a real gift to me. But thanks to you, I have changed my mind about almost everything. Ordination, baptism, church membership, the incarnation, the meaning of the cross, the resurrection. It just goes on and on and on. You have pushed me past liberal into a camp that is known as progressive, which believes that Christianity has always been in the business of evolving, and it's going to keep evolving. And so now I can look down my nose at those people who believe the way that I used to believe. You know, if they would just read the right books. I can look down my nose at those people who have everything all figured out and who believe that questioning is wrong. Yesterday at the memorial service, I got to talking with the pastor of the Shoals Community Church and found out that we really disagree. I got to look down my nose at him. If only he would give some more thought to what he believes. There's nothing like feeling superior, is there? But what if he actually has some thoughts that I need to hear? Maybe he could benefit from my wisdom, but what if he has some wisdom that can help me? What an interesting possibility. Talking and listening. Is that what it takes to be a peacemaker? Is there a better way to bring peace to the world than talking and listening? Really listening. Of course, when we talk about peace, we're not talking about the end of war. We're talking about God's shalom. Shalom, where everyone has enough, where everyone is justice, where there is no more domestic violence, there is no need for armies. It's a world that nurtures and hopes for the future. Shalom. Do we get there by talking and listening to each other? Is that where it comes from? What an interesting thought. We have elected politicians who claim that they could bring peace. That has not worked. Wars have been fought in order to bring peace. What if the way to bring peace to the world is actually by building relationships with people with whom we disagree? What if that's where peace comes from? What a fascinating thought. Of course, that puts you and I exactly behind the 8 ball. Because instead of expecting somebody else to bring peace, the responsibility has just become ours. And of course, part of the problem is that strength and war and violence, well, see, that looks good. That's what looks like strength. And peacemaking, talking and listening, that looks like weakness. But you understand that in this Beatitude, Jesus is turning things upside down. Jesus is saying, you know who's really strong? It's the peacemakers. The people who build one relationship at a time. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they'll be the children of God. Which allows me to make a couple of interesting suggestions. First of all, I keep hoping to be able to sit down with somebody who really disagrees with me and who will talk about what they believe and their position and help me understand. So if you're one of those people who really disagree explain that. I'd love to talk with you. I'd love to listen, actually. And it allows me to raise these questions. With whom can you be a peacemaker? With whom could you reach out just to hear their story? Where do you have an opportunity? Where do you have a relationship, a broken relationship that needs to be healed? Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Would you pray with me? Gracious God, our world is so broken and so polarized. Show us how to bring peace. We pray in the name of Christ.